ready when you are, Chair Griswold.
All right, I call this Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024 meeting to order at 7 o'clock. On the agenda, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. And Commissioner Hornseth, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Sullivan?
Here.
Hubbard is excused. Verhey is excused. Charbonneau?
Here.
Ullman?
Here.
Hornseth?
Present.
And Chair Griswold.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Next on the agenda is citizens' comments on any subject except those items scheduled for a public hearing. And we do not have any public present. Approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda for December 3rd.
One second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Voting to approve tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Hornseth?
Yes.
Ullman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Charbonneau?
Yes.
And Chair Griswold.
Yes.
Okay.
Next.
Oh, hang on.
Next we have special orders, presentations.
No, sorry, hang on a second.
Oh, I'm
I gotta
sorry.
read what was just approved on the consent agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Oops. Please continue to hold. Okay, approved on tonight's consent agenda was the October 8th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes and Resolution 2024-023 of the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Seward, Alaska, granting a 6-month extension to Conditional Use Permit 2024-003 issued to CATC Alaska Tourism Corporation to construct a second bunkhouse on Lot 22A, Clearview, 2018 replat located at 208 Phoenix Road within an auto commercial AC zoning district. And that is all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next we have special orders, presentations, and reports. We have no proclamations or awards, but we do have the city administration report.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. Short and sweet today. We're still plugging along with the comprehensive plan public engagement portion of the update, and so we're just encouraging the public to please fill out the surveys. You checked what's our numbers at again?
We're at 180 people that have taken the surveys.
Yeah, and so I think we've gotten the word out really well. A lot of people have said they've heard it from different avenues. Right now we're kind of in the community organization phase of going to a bunch of different groups. We're excited to be with Claire at the American Legion tomorrow evening. So yeah, so we've got I think 5 different presentations this week. So doing a good job hopefully getting that word out. But the public who's listening, if you're a member of an organization that we have not tapped, please feel free to reach out because we'd love to come speak or get you some information. Outside that, as far as city council items, we're on a 2-year budget cycle. There's 3 public hearings to go through that process, and the last and final one is at their next council meeting, which is on December 16th. So just letting the public aware of that process if you have anything to contribute. And finally, Parks and Rec is having their competitive racquetball league end of season tournament on Thursday evening from 5 to 8. And during the regular season, Courtney and I took first and second place. Courtney first place, obviously. And so feel free to come cheer us on Thursday evening. Hopefully one of us will bring home the gold for the city. That's it.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is other reports and presentations. There are none, and there are no presentations. So there are no public hearings. There is no unfinished business. We're just whipping through this. Under new business, we have no resolutions. Under other new business, we have review 2025 meeting dates and proposed date changes, and that is on page 11 of the packet. And would administration like to run us through that?
Sure. I'm not sure how this has been done in the past, but this year with it being an election cycle where I think we had to move 3 meetings for elections, and then there were a few other times with the city council budget work sessions kind of bumped us from one. So we just want to be proactive because I think ideally we're not changing meetings, or at least as few times as possible, so that the public is aware and can plan accordingly. And so we've kind of went through, and it doesn't look like we'll be any holidays will bump a council meeting to a Tuesday, which would potentially bump us. It's a light on the election cycle, so there'll be only one date, but kind of going, I guess we can go through chronologically. The work session in January right now says the 21st, and there's no proposed meeting date in there, but for the next item on the agenda, there is a recommendation to ask City Council for a joint work session in January. And so I would suggest if we're able to get that, then we would just change that meeting date to whatever that joint work session date is, unless the commission would prefer to have 2 work sessions that month. So that would be either I wrote this date wrong. What was it, the 13th or the 27th, which would be a Monday before their city council meetings. So, but we can maybe wait to decide on that until after we've talked about the next agenda item. Outside that, April was really the main month we wanted to push back the meetings, which it works out really well because April 1st would be the typical meeting dates, but that is the National Planning Conference date, which we'll be out of town for. And so because there's 5 Tuesdays in April, we just thought we would push back the meeting a week, as well as the work session, which works well for the work session because the 15th is the Kenai Peninsula Borough Assembly meeting, which occurs in Seward once a year in April. So that would avoid that conflict. And then outside that, the only election day conflict where we'd be without a clerk would be Tuesday, October 7th. And so the proposed meeting date up for discussion to the commission would be to push it back a week, which would we'd have back-to-back meetings in that sense. So we'd have a meeting on the 14th and then a work session on the 21st, or we could just do a doubleheader on the 21st. And so, yeah.
Is there a December work session?
For next year?
No, just coming up this month.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Doesn't need to be on here, this is next year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So do you have anything that you anticipate being particularly involved with the coming down the pike? I mean, we do have the Muni Land Plan, we have a few of the other ones that, sometimes we get some contentious things and, it's sort of like, it can be tough to have a work session and a meeting on the same day if it's a little bit, hairy.
Large.
Yeah.
Lengthy.
Yeah. My preference is is to have a separate work session from a meeting, because I just don't like pushing something because of timelines.
Yeah, and typically, since I've started, the doubleheaders have been an additional work session and with the one that we've already had scheduled to have an additional presentation. So, so you would recommend in October, instead of having that doubleheader, just have the meeting pushed back a week to the 14th, and then we would do the work session on the 21st.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I'd look at.
Any objections to that?
So far away.
I know, right?
I know.
I'm okay with
This is great, though.
Yeah, it's so far
It's-
away.
That's definitely an advantage to have the days ahead for us and for the public, you just, I mean, they're typically that first and third week, right? But to really just see it is nice.
Okay, so we can plan for the 14th. Any issues with pushing the April dates back a week each?
Do you want to summarize so I can circle which ones you'd like?
summarize the.
So, for example, regular meetings, we'd be meeting on April 8th instead of the 1st.
Yes, yep, so,
And October 7th meeting, we'd be meeting on the 14th.
correct,
And work sessions, we'd be meeting on April 22nd
correct.
and October 21st.
Yep, October 21st would stay the same.
And I mentioned this in an email to Danny earlier today. I'd like to propose that we try really hard to stick to these dates, because we lost 2 members because they planned ahead, and then we had suddenly election concerns and switched the dates. So I'd like to propose that we try to stick to these dates. But as things do happen, unforeseen things do happen, but I would like to say, don't change it unless everybody's still planned to be here. Because moving ahead with commissioners that would have been here had they known doesn't seem like a good representation for the board.
And I just saw your email right before the meeting, which is
Right,
why
I
I didn't
know you've
respond.
been
Because I'd like to avoid
busy.
the policy where we just don't have a meeting if we have to change it, if all the commissioners can't make it. But I do want the commission to know that when something happens, a conflict occurs, and we come to you with that conflict, and we're saying, hey, this would be a proposed date, like, please know that that's not us telling you when the meeting's gonna be. It's your decision. And so if there was a topic that you were excited about being a part of at a work session, and something comes up, and now there's a conflict, and you can't go because you had other plans, like, speak up and say, no, I'd prefer to reschedule this at a time where I can be present. We have no issues with that. We're just gonna give you the best options available and hopefully be proactive in this manner so that this doesn't happen
Right.
very often.
I really appreciate this calendar. It's great. Even though it's so far away, it'll be here really soon.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments for administration on that? Okay.
Oh, could I make a quick comment? So we were looking at the 2025 holiday calendar today in the clerk's office, just to look to see which council meetings might be bumped to a Tuesday due to a Monday holiday.
Right.
And I kind of realized that none of the boards or commissions follow that same pattern of just moving ahead one day. It's usually like, you stick to your Tuesdays, so you look for another Tuesday in the month. But I just wanted to mention that if that was an option, to like, if the Tuesday is, booked, or there's a conflict, with the Wednesday, the very next day work.
Yeah,
That's good.
I'm fine with
I'm fine with that, totally.
sensible.
In the past, I have found so much time spent, like, how about the next day after that? How, it just seems if we try to stick to Tuesdays, we've cleared most of our calendars for Tuesdays. We could try it, but I just found with 7 people, we're busy, and there's meetings on Wednesdays, and there's meetings on Thursdays, and nobody wants to meet on a Friday. So I guess that would be an option, but I'd sure like to try to stick to Tuesdays.
I'll say, just to play devil's advocate from our end, I think it would, actually, it's not a bad idea for putting a packet together.
Yeah.
Back-to-back weeks would be challenging, more challenging than having that buffer, and so.
So you're saying you'd rather have them just slide to the next day?
Same week.
Yeah, so for example, that
Okay.
would relate to the October, instead of having on the 7th and pushing it to the 14th, the following Tuesday, I think the clerk's suggestion would maybe be as an option the next day on the 8th, which would be 10, 11 months notice for a Wednesday meeting, so.
Could you repeat that? Is it were you talking about a meeting or a work session?
So
That's
the
the-
meeting,
The meeting on,
the October 7th meeting, which
Okay.
is an election day.
Okay.
Instead of pushing it back a week, pushing it back a day to the 8th. And that way, that gives us the buffer of still putting together a packet in time.
For that one, I like the October 14th better, because I might be out of town on the 7th
Okay.
and the 8th. But in any other circumstances, I hear you're coming from, and that makes sense.
right,
But I have noticed that the boards and commissions like their day of the week, Historic Preservation meets on Thursday, NACAB meets on Wednesday, P&Z is Tuesday, so I totally
Right.
dig that.
it's good arguments for both both
Right.
sides.
Which, yeah, we can keep the 14th. We just might need to, for that September meeting, when we discuss the September work session, decide the next 2 work sessions, because we won't have
Okay.
enough time to put something together
Right.
for the October work session if we're deciding a week before. But we can totally, knowing ahead, have that conversation, so.
We can try to stay on Tuesdays, but keep a Wednesday option in our back pocket in case, something comes up.
I call that rigidly flexible.
There you go. That's a perfect term.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that makes that easier, and then we'll still need to decide January work session, but maybe we'll wait till the next agenda item to see where we land on that.
Okay. Anything else? Sounds good. The next topic is discuss work session topics for Tuesday, December 17th. Did you want to lead with that?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, so the so the work session, did you do number 2?
No, I
Sorry,
skipped
sorry.
over that, actually. Thank you.
Yeah.
So number 2 under other new business is receive direction from the commission on how to move forward with past work session topics such as marijuana establishments and housing. And that is discussed on page 12.
Were we going to be having a discussion of the joint work session anyway, or trying to establish one? Is it too early to have something with the council on that?
So that was kind of our
January, can we do it in?
Yeah, so that's the idea. Last I spoke with Kat, the city manager, she suggested that January might be a good month to have a joint work session with city council to have a discussion on a variety of topics, including the comprehensive plan, but related to topics that you've all been engaging in recently, the marijuana regulations and some of the housing conversations that we've started.
Chair Griswold, I was wondering, are we sort of a little bit more, I got the impression that we were sort of a little more firm in our belief that we were ready to move forward to go to the council with our ideas on the marijuana.
Right. I haven't seen the final
Right.
compilation of our ideas, but I think we had some pretty solid community input
I thought so.
and consensus among the commission.
I did too.
So I was prepared to have that go. I'd
Mhm.
like to see it, of course, come here for public hearing.
Before we go to the council?
And, well, because we haven't seen the final version.
So I think when we would propose, Chair Griswold and the Commission, on the December work session, we'll bring the draft ordinances with the changes that the Commission proposed with input from the public for marijuana establishments, as well as we had for building height and ADUs.
Mhm.
So we'll bring those 2 draft ordinances to the work session for you to review and make any adjustments. And then, as we recommended in here, then bring those draft ordinances, however you adjust them after our work session, to City Council in their joint work session to show them what you're going to propose and see if they have any input. And then February, hopefully, would be our goal to have the public hearing on those ordinances, depending on how that joint work session goes with City Council.
I'm in favor of that plan for sure. I think it's great.
I think it's a good idea, especially since if we have all these great ideas and then we have a hearing, but the council hasn't been participating, we're wasting time. But if we already get the council's input, and it's sort of like we've already had the information, the input, then the public can go in and make their commentary and go from there. I think it's probably a good idea.
Drafts could change again
Yep.
after the joint session.
Mhm.
Okay, so you get like, here's this first edition, then we redo that a bit on December 17th. We get organized because it's a lot we're dealing with. Marijuana, building height, ADUs, go to them, third draft.
And it avoids a public hearing meeting in January, which is right after the holidays, where for some topics that I think we'd want to
Yeah.
try and get as much public
Yeah.
at least aware of.
Patience with
And-
these, like you've been doing, I think is great, yeah.
I feel that we haven't really address building height as far as what was in our packets, or parking, but you didn't mention parking.
I know.
Mostly what we heard about building height was from hoteliers, how
Yes.
they would like more height. But we didn't really, that wasn't really, it was sort of an off topic that they were allowed to input, which is really valuable. But I don't feel the public has had that specific opportunity to comment about building height other than commercial developments.
Sure, and that was another motivation for bringing it to the
Yeah.
next work session to continue that
Okay.
conversation. Because I do agree, I think you all were more maybe set on the direction for the marijuana than we were for like some of those housing topics, but we can, I think Courtney did a good job of summarizing some of what that conversation was to have a starting point, and then we can continue that conversation.
Yeah. Public will have a chance on December 17th. A second one technically, because building height was on that previous work session agenda. So, the word was out there, and the public came, and hoteliers, but they're public, So,
Yeah.
Definitely.
so when we get more, and we can talk more about that. I thought that was a good conversation. That got some legs, and look forward to talking about it more.
And we can even, for that work session, pull some of the input we've already received from the comprehensive plan surveys. We had a specific question about building height.
Right, yeah.
So we can put that in the packet,
Okay.
the numbers that people put in, their specific comments.
Great.
And would you like to revisit parking? We had pretty thick part of our work session packet was not addressed. And you were gone, so that was good, because I would like you to be here for parking, because some of that packet was from your research. So would our work session be, look at the marijuana draft code and building height and ADUs and parking?
It's a lot.
I think that's too much.
No, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
I like putting things in there, but
Well,
I don't know if we're gonna get to all those.
no, that's what I'm saying.
So we're gonna break it
Tackle
up.
parking in the future.
Which one do you think would be the more controversial or the more, deep dive that we need to go into? Would parking be, or would be building heights, or even, I don't know, even ADUs, because that's a new
Building heights.
critter too.
Actually, I don't know, they're all.
Parking seems more complex. Building height.
I'd like to nail down the marijuana code.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd really like to give that some, because that one is the one that's really relevant. We've had quite a bit of input in work sessions on it, and now we need to polish it up and make sure it's what the public wants and what we thought we heard and what we would recommend. So, in avoidance of the Charbonneau principle, I'd like to just focus on really making sure that marijuana code is ready
Yeah.
to present to council,
fair.
and then they would just say, this looks good, if it goes.
And not building height or ADUs next
No,
work
it just
session?
muddies the water, I think.
I would want to do building height and ADUs.
Well, how long do you think we would spend on that marijuana code? Do you think
I
that
do
would
not
take
know.
a whole work session?
I don't know.
But a lot of times when we do the work session, like you're saying, we're talking about the Charbonneau principle there, you stack
What is
the
that?
deck and you only get to the ones you have to. You don't have to,
Oh,
if you
right.
run out of time, then you can,
Yeah.
you can just push that
Yeah.
on to another one. But you do have something that's there in case we all agree in like 20 minutes, and we're like, okay, what are we gonna do now?
Can't do
So we'll
right
move
then.
on to something else. So just having something in the queue, so
How
to
about
speak.
just one more topic?
One more.
Or topic would be
Okay.
fine, yeah.
So which one do you think would be the most important?
The easiest, because.
The easiest.
Because we might spend a bunch of time on the marijuana, but we will spend a bunch of time on a marijuana code. And so we need the one that's the easiest to look at, or one where we're gonna do another work session or more on, so we could just get started on it. Or just, dip our toes into it a little more.
Well, we've kind of spent a lot of time on ADUs already.
Yeah.
Do you want to work on that and polish it up? Or,
I would be okay with it.
I like all three. I mean, I think revisiting our last time with the marijuana, a lot of work going in. Remember, we went to the usage graph, right, the zoning, and we really built and did the work there at the end to be where we were going to allow or not allow. I think that information is ready to go and look at. So I would put these on there, and by the Charbonneau principle, if you don't get to building height, you don't, but maybe the marijuana goes quick because we spent so much time on that, and there's that page that we look at again and be like, okay, this is the uses allowed table, right? This is what council is going to look at and be like, we like this, we don't, and there'll be a conversation with them. I mean, what else do you see talking about with marijuana?
Depends on what the public wants to.
True, there could be
I think we have
some
room
on
for
that.
2 things on there. I don't know if there's room for 4.
No,
Especially
3,
how big.
I said 3.
Oh, I was talking ADU parking height and.
No parking,
Okay.
that's not what
Okay.
they're proposing.
Okay, I think parking.
Can you wait on
height-
parking? Is that okay?
Till when?
To wait on parking? Oh, till when?
I mean, just think, the valuable thing that's gonna come from this is we're gonna hear from council on these 3 topics.
Yeah.
You know, and so they, you know, that opinion could be straightforward, it could be complex, but at least you get a feel for how they feel on these, and that can kind of direct the work. We see a path forward. You know, one could get canceled out, like where we're not in agreement. I don't know, I've never done a joint
True.
council with joint work session with city council, but, you know, we're getting together, so I would really go double down on the Charbonneau principle as far as like having a lot to talk about.
Do you anticipate they would set priorities? Don't they set yearly priorities for us?
Yes, and so if you really want to get into the Charbonneau principle, because we haven't talked about other options we have for that December work session, based on looking at I looked at the priority list that you all did. It was before I started, but let me just give you the whole list, and so you all can have.
Yeah.
One of the priorities for this year was to review the CUP application process, the application and process, which we have not done, but I think we've gotten some feedback through the several that we've done that there could be some changes there. So that was one topic. Also, we haven't done a review of the municipal lands inventory and management plan, which typically is an annual thing. And I think talking internally, we're okay with that because we're still in process of several of the recommendations with, what are all the
replats for Spring Creek Campground, 4th of July Beach, Koali Park, and the 204 Lowell Canyon property up there with vacating that right away.
Which right away is that?
It's if you're driving up Lowell Canyon to the right.
It's after Glacier View,
yeah.
right after
Yeah,
Glacier View.
There's a right of way behind Glacier View because it used to be a
Right, right.
road to the
And the
cul-de-sac.
city owns that little
Yeah.
lot. Good, that's good.
And so we're kind of, if we want to do a bigger overview once these kind of have finished, but if we wanted to still kind of keep it the priorities and do some sort of overview related to the housing conversation and going into that city council meeting, like I think about the public works building lot that's going to be moved and how, I'm not sure when, but previously they had put in utilities to serve single family homes, but based on all the information we've been receiving, that's not the need for town. And so, you know, there could be a shorter, you know, targeted review of that plan where we just look through the properties and just, you know, what are potential housing opportunities with city-owned land at the time, and have a conversation about that we present to council. And then, yeah, parking, I did kind of not put on the list because we haven't had an initial conversation with the public, and with this work session being, again, close to the holidays, I kind of would be wary of having a bigger conversation there, where we felt it was okay to bring back just the cannabis and the ADUs and the building height, because we've put that word out. We've had multiple work sessions on housing and marijuana regulation, so the public has had the opportunity to weigh in. So, not that we don't want to continue to have their input, but that would be more of a recap of, from our standpoint, it would be, hey, we're presenting you information. We left those meetings with, all right, these are the thoughts and that we've had. We've just put it on paper, and more for you all to review to make sure we've captured what you've already discussed. And that'd be more for the marijuana regulations. Building height, ADUs, what we put on paper, I think would be more of a starting point for the next part of the discussion, because I don't think we had a consensus on those items.
Yeah, and that occurs on the 17th, and the purpose of the 17th work session is to get organized for the joint work session in January.
Yep.
So what about priorities? Would that be a topic for this work session as well? So we're ready for the council?
Like I guess how is that done? So in the priority list that I read, that was council approving the.
Yeah, I think in the past, we haven't had a work session on the priorities, which we could do. We've just brought it to a initial P and Z meeting for your approval, and then it goes to city council for their approval.
So we give them what we want to do, they don't give us what they
Yeah.
want us to do?
Correct, and they can make adjustments to your list of priorities at their meeting if they want to.
Okay.
And then our joint work session, that's a P and Z meeting, like it's on the Tuesday, it's led by you guys as far as like, are they gonna come with an agenda too to that? You know what I'm saying?
I think they would take priority in the date and time, so it would be Monday at 5:30 before.
Last time we did
But like, what we'll be talking about if we go with this plan is marijuana.
But we, I think, would,
ADUs,
yes, we'd be the one,
The P and Z
yeah.
shared, but, gotcha, kind of pitching. or-
Seeking their input and.
Yeah, right, they're not seeking our input on stuff.
Right, and I don't want you to feel rushed, because again, if you don't feel like we're ready, we can push it back, but part of the thought process was if we can get it in to their first December or January meeting, if we have good, like, hard feedback that we can draft for the February P and Z meeting, that's an ideal timeline, because
Love COVID.
at the end of February, 3 of you, your terms are ended, and I don't know what your plans are, but, and with Commissioner Verhey being out for a chunk of the winter, you know, there's, in March, I don't know what this commission would look like, and so I would like you all to have the opportunity to vote on some heavy topics that you've been discussing before any of you have to make that decision, so.
For sure.
Well, this is really interesting. So could you summarize the timeline? From what I hear, December 17th work session, we would discuss the marijuana draft code that we're going to compile based on our previous work sessions. We'll discuss building height and ADUs as a starting point for the next work session. And then I'm not clear when we discuss a priority list. Would that be maybe later in January, or?
I know, does that have to be done annually, or is that not?
It does have to be done annually, but in the past, yeah, it hasn't necessarily been approved by city council in January, so we could
Okay.
do that at a January work session. In the past, it has been approved in February or something like
Okay,
that, so.
that's, I appreciate that clarification. So in January, we would discuss a priority list, the existing one, and maybe other ideas that have come up that we'd like to add to that. And then in February, we would have the joint work session with council, or is that in January?
So it would be, well, okay, so that's where a decision you all would have to make is the joint work session that Kat mentioned would be January, is the, what were the dates? 13th or 27th, but 13th would be the date I would recommend.
And we'll be gone January 13th.
You'll be gone January 13th, okay.
14th.
Well, that doesn't matter, it's still, we'll
Well,
be
you can slide
gone.
over to the 17th, then
I
you'll be
planned a
back.
vacation between the two
Right.
January
Okay.
work session and
Right.
meetings.
Nicely done.
So I'll be coming back and leaving just after and coming back just before.
So you'll be before the 17th?
I'll be gone the 9th to the 18th,
Oh,
I think.
You'll be there for the 27th?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll be here for the 21st and also for the 7th.
But if it's a council session, they would have it on a Monday before their
Yep.
meeting. So these are all Tuesdays, right?
And on page 12,
Yeah.
where we're, second paragraph, was our recommendation for the joint work session.
Okay.
13th to the 27th?
Yeah,
So we need to go back to page 11 and check that out.
so on page
So,
11, that's why I
13,
mentioned,
27.
on page 11, the scheduled P and Z work session is the 21st. And if we do a joint work session with council in January on the 13th or the 27th, then the decision for you all would be, do you want to count that as your work session for January, or would you like to do 2 work sessions, one with city council and then one at our regularly scheduled time?
What would you guys want to do? Parking?
What can you do?
My initial thought was to cancel the work session and just do the joint, but based on this conversation, that might not be a bad idea to keep the 21st and have that just be the priority discussion for the year.
Yeah,
And you
that's-
could come to the joint session with a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
Be quick for you guys, but that conversation would have been had.
So the 27th would be the joint work session to make sure that Nathaniel's back.
Yeah, I'd like to do the 21st and the 27th, but I don't want to put too much on you guys. So,
I like to.
Squeeze the juice.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I think I'm here.
Well, once they get direction and stuff like this, and they can move
That's why
forward
we
with
should
things that
even
they
do
want
it
to do, because otherwise we're
Yeah.
just
They can
spinning
do it
our
different.
wheels. They don't have, you know, they're just waiting on us.
Yeah. So then yeah.
if you guys are going to be able to get everything in without a problem, I'd like to do 2. But if it's going to be a problem for you doing other work, then we can.
I mean, if we're just doing a priority list for our January one, I don't know that that's a lot of prep
No.
work for us outside us all just brainstorming, coming to that meeting with ideas for what our priorities are, so. Yeah,
So are you talking January 21st is the priority discussion?
which is what you had originally mentioned.
And then what date was the joint
27th,
of January?
January.
yeah.
And that is a meeting?
No, that's going to be
It's
a
another
joint
one.
work session.
Joint work
Council.
session.
January 27th?
We would add that to the list.
And that's a Monday.
Right, you have to
That is
add
a
it.
Monday, and these are just, this is just a request, it's not been
Right.
taken to council,
Yeah.
and so it's not like a etched in stone. They have
And
final
like
decision.
5:30 to 6:30?
Yes.
sort of thing.
11 p.m.
These 2 documents have to flow together.
Yeah.
Well, just to have that priorities conversation, even if it doesn't make it into the 27th, really, it's just good to get that in, I think.
Right?
Yeah, getting work done's important.
Right. It's a good way to focus everybody on what we hope to accomplish in the next year.
Right, just kick off the year.
The only hiccup with this plan would be if we have the joint work session with city council on January 27th, we would not have enough time to post information for a February vote. So you would have to maybe consider a special meeting that month if you would like to have a vote before the terms end for this commission.
I'm fine with
The
special
terms
meeting.
end at the end of February?
Correct.
I'm fine with a special meeting.
That's good.
Yeah, and you
Sounds
can
fun.
call that any time you want, Carol.
After
Right?
that
Am I getting that
time.
right?
Yeah, right after that time, yeah, but she
Well,
can.
while we're looking at calendars, between January 27th and February 28th, when would you like to have a special meeting? Need a big calendar.
We would
Let's
need-
finish one right there. I don't have
Yeah,
any
it's
plans
expired.
after that one in January.
Okay.
So,
We just need to make sure that
I'm
we get the
open.
notice out well enough.
Yeah.
for
It'd have to
the-
be at the end of February,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So the
And
28th.
preferably,
Okay.
yeah, I was going to get my calendar out. Preferably on a Tuesday, right?
Would you do a special meeting on the day of the work session and do
A double header?
type thing? Is that,
What's that?
would that be an option?
What did you say?
Tuesday, February 18th is the scheduled February work session.
Yeah, yeah.
To save an extra day, we could do a double header. Work session at 5:30, special meeting at 7.
That works.
I like
I'm
that.
fine with that.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that enough time? Okay.
Complicated.
I know, but it's good. I'm glad we do this because this is like good to think through all
Yeah,
these.
this is great.
And hopefully you'll send us a little memo,
Yep.
what we just decided, so we all know.
Yeah, since you've all agreed to this, this is what I'm telling you you're gonna do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I look forward to that memo.
Okay, so,
What do we say?
right, so then to just recap, January, we are requesting a work session with council on the 27th. And then in February, we will schedule a special meeting on February 18th as a double header with our regularly scheduled work session. In April, we would push back both the meeting and work session 1 week, so the 8th and the 22nd. And then October, we will push back the meeting date to the 14th, a week later, keeping the work session on the 22nd. No double header.
Correct.
Okay. Boom.
That was a lot of work.
Well,
Everyone got that?
Did I hear you say a 5:30 PM start time for your work sessions when there was a double header involved?
yes.
Okay, but normally there's still 6,
N-
When it's
Yes,
just a work session, yeah.
correct.
but double headers.
Double headers, we squeeze that juice, get in a little early.
Did you hear pizza with that?
And 5 minutes.
I mean, I heard double
You gotta
header.
have it.
It's the same as pizza.
There you go. It's code for pizza. Yeah, and also the joint session with council would be 5:30. But since we're not obligated to stay, we don't get pizza.
No.
That double header code day. Subsection 2C,
Well,
5,
I'm
6.
sure we could order extra pizza for a joint work session.
It's just a
It's
short
on the
one.
record.
Yeah, it's on the record.
It's in the minutes. It's going in the minutes.
Well, any other comments about that? All good?
Good
All
work,
right.
appreciate the planning,
Looking through.
yeah.
Okay, can we confirm then the this December's work session topics? What did you all decide that you wanted to do for that?
Chair?
Sidebar there.
Yeah, so moving on to discuss work session topic for Tuesday, December 17th, we decided we would discuss the marijuana draft code and the building height and ADUs as a starting point for the next work session, or subsequent work session.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what you guys proposed to, right? In your,
yeah, did you want to look at the muni land plan at all for the targeted housing, since that might,
do that in the
Okay.
priorities one.
could do that in priorities?
Yeah.
Because that's
Okay.
always a.
Yeah, we've done priorities. Because priorities won't take terribly long, shouldn't anyway. Everybody will go through what the list that they have and we'll knock one out. At least in the past, it's happened pretty quickly.
And if you do the muni land plan and you've got that, like we were doing, trying to do that every year, it's more dusting off the stuff as opposed to trying to recreate it like we've had to do in the past. And
It sounds like you've done a heavy lift on it recently.
I feel like we did
Last
it
few
like
years.
last month. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
it's not time yet. Apparently, it is.
It is. All came back around.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't get into that one as well on that work session.
Okay. Perfect.
It'd be helpful to have that summary that Courtney explained, what's in the works right now, so we can know that and then move forward with other projects that are priority.
Yeah.
Chair Griswold,
Yes.
could you please clarify for the clerk here? You said building height and ADUs as a starting point for the next work session. So does that mean that they're official topics for Tuesday, December 17th? Or do you mean that they're being bumped to the next future work session?
I believe we're going to have those as official topics, but because we already have spent some time on ADUs, and in our packet, we have building height, but it wasn't really explored for all the zones. So that would be an official topic, and the intent is to dive into it even more
'Cause I
in a
think
subsequent work session.
like I threw out that phrase for a starting point. So what I meant by that is we will come to that work session with some language based on the initial conversations, but knowing that no consensus was made, view that as a starting point to the discussion, not this is what we're advocating or pushing or what we think you've all decided. But sometimes it's easier to have something to start with. So Courtney's been working on that, did a great job just trying to summarize based on the conversations from commission and public. So we'll bring that.
In that work session, if everybody was okay with that, since we're going to talk about the marijuana code, and we've already worked on that for quite a while, maybe we could tighten that up first, get through that, and then hit the ADUs, because we've already have been in that one. Tighten that one up, and then if there's time for height, then we'll get to that. That way, we can hopefully get at least two things, buttoned up pretty good before we open another third.
It's also logical, because I don't know if the building height would affect an ADU. If we have an idea of what we're going to do with the ADUs, and we're good to go with that, then we have a discussion across the board for building heights, because I don't know if somebody has an ADU that might exceed that for whatever piece of land, but, we make a decision on the ADUs and then say, okay, we're good to go with those. Now, what are we going to do with all these buildings and what their heights are?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
That's a good priority.
Is that okay?
I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with that. It's good.
And ADU, just for the record, is accessory dwelling unit.
So the priority would be the topics. Please put marijuana, draft code first, and then ADU and building height.
And maybe Courtney can help me, but just to give you all something to think about going into that. Again, I think the marijuana regulations, we went through it pretty well, and at the end of had that chart put together. So I think that'll be more, here's what you've come up with, let's just review it and see if there's any changes. ADUs, I felt like there were not really a consensus on the whole size based on like square footage or percentage of the primary dwelling unit, and so that's something to maybe think about ahead of time. And is there anything else with ADUs that you can remember?
Yeah, it was primarily the size. The commission discussed a little bit about potentially looking at different zoning districts for allowing larger sizes or limiting the size, but I think what I have drafted is pretty minimal. I didn't want to start out making a ton of changes to code. The language I drafted tried to take all the input and make as minimal of a change as possible as a starting point to code. So it's just changing primarily the definition of efficiency apartments is what we have. So changing that terminology, and then in the definition, just making an adjustment to the size allowance and the requirement that it needs to be connected to the single-family home.
And you can include research from the building department about breezeways.
Yeah, we did talk to Jeremy, and so we can provide that input. He said that there was nothing, he wasn't able to find anything in code, his building code, for requiring buildings to be connected. But we can provide what he had sent us regarding that.
That'd be really helpful. I think our priority list might include code changes in many places. It should, because I'm sure you have quite a list by now of things that we've run across that could be adjusted. Okay, we all done with the other new business work session topics? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to informational items and reports. Reminder of meetings. We have a work session on Tuesday, December 17th at 6 p.m. here. And we have a regular meeting on Tuesday, January 7th at 7 p.m. here. Unless that's been changed.
Those are staying.
That one's good. Still good.
That's good. Good, all right. There are no other items, are there? No other items? Okay. There are no citizens. Would the commission have any comments at all?
I had a question, question for administration. Just lost my thought there. But the form, the survey that the public's filling out, I just wanted to ask and get it out there. The correct way to access it is through the city website, or is it under your subsection? How would be the best place for the public to find it?
Yeah, so the link can be found on the community development website.
Okay.
There should be like a sublink that just says comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And so there's that, and then hopefully there's a bunch of flyers and Facebook posts and et cetera that have there's a QR code that you can access it to as well, which is also on the website. We've also tried to get that out through other means. And every person with a P.O. box has a postcard or received a postcard with that QR code on it as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
Yep.
I would throw out there, having done the survey, it is very user-friendly, and really you can just provide the information you want to provide. You don't need to answer all the questions. So if there's just like a few key points you want the department to know about and speak your mind, you could do that very efficiently, and all input really helps. I was really happy with the user process with it, was able to get my voice in. Felt good. So thanks for designing a survey like that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the feedback on it.
It's a lot of work. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Anyone else have comments?
Well, I'd say that we have a community development will be at the Legion tomorrow at 5:30 to 6:30 to give a brief overview and information session for people on it. And they're also going to be bringing a couple, some surfaces or, tablets for people if they want to use it, because there's a lot of folks that don't know how to use QR codes and all the rest of that stuff. So they're going to be there to help them to do the survey if they need to and answer any questions. And anybody can come. It doesn't have to be just Legion people. Anybody can be there downstairs in the meeting room. Thank you guys for doing that. It's huge.
Yeah.
Do you have an end date for receiving surveys?
We don't have a specific date, but it'll probably be in May sometime.
Okay.
Again, we want to capture some of that seasonal audience. And let me just piggyback on that. I'll mention where we're going the rest of the week in case people in the public are with those organizations. But we'll be presenting at the PACAB Commission meeting tomorrow, which is at noon, and then the American Legion tomorrow evening. And then we'll be at the Seward Chamber of Commerce luncheon on Thursday, and then we're going to the lunch program at the Senior Center on Friday.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That's a broad cross-section of Seward.
That's nice.
good scheduling.
And we did a Rotary Club today.
Big week.
Yeah, big week.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that work. Anything else?
I just have one quick question. What about people who are living outside? We've had different people asking that live out of the town but live in the greater metropolitan area of Seward. Can they do that themselves? Because I've asked them. I said, well, if you can get a QR code and you've got feelings about to input to Seward, you can certainly do that too. There's no barriers to that.
No, we ask a demographic question at the end of each survey that asks if you're inside or outside city limits, but it doesn't weigh your answers anymore if you're inside city limits. It's more of we view this more as a community plan, not a inside city limits plan. And I think the greater Seward community does consist of a lot of people outside the city limits. And so, yeah, no, anyone who considers themselves part of this community can fill out the survey.
Can I ask a quick question about the survey? I noticed that there's 4 surveys. Have you been able to track the stats on if any one survey is more popular than the others, or do people tend to do all 4 of them?
Yeah, the vision survey has the most with 180. Quality of life comes in close second. And then economy and land use are pretty tied up. But
So a user can just fill out one survey, like this is the one, yeah.
And Vision's the first one available, at least if you go left to right. So
Okay.
it makes sense that that's the most filled out one. That's also the shortest one in terms of number of questions. Makes you think a little bit though, so maybe it takes you a little longer on that one, but
But not too long.
no.
Okay. If there are no further comments, I call the meeting adjourned. What?
Isn't there an action item? No?
That's it? Can't
Oh.
tonight, just work session.
Okay.
Anything else? I call the meeting adjourned at 7:55 PM.